All right, let's talk about the cloud. For the last, decade, we've been told to move everything there. It was supposed to be the final frontier for our data. But what if I told you the tide is turning? We're going to dig into something called the Edge Data Fabric and unpack the pretty surprising reasons your data might actually be moving away from the cloud. Let's get into it. So I've got to ask this question right up front. Is the cloud becoming a problem instead of a solution? I know, it sounds kind of crazy. For years, the cloud has been the answer to, everything. But as our world gets smarter, more connected, more instant, we are starting to slam into some serious limitations. Is it possible that the very thing that enabled the last wave of tech is now a bottleneck for the next one?
And here's the core of the issue. The thing you've got to understand is that data isn't just being born in these huge centralized data centers anymore. No way. It's being generated everywhere. On factory floors, inside smart cars, all across our power grids, in our cities, you name it. This massive, decentralized explosion of data creation, that's what we call the edge.
Right. So here's the problem. Trying to scoop up all that data from the edge and ship it all the way back to a centralized cloud for processing, it just doesn't scale. That model was fantastic for websites and mobile apps, don't get me wrong, but for the real-time, high-stakes world of the edge, the cloud is starting to show some really serious cracks. Let's break down those cracks into 4 major headaches. Think of them as the 4 horsemen of the cloud apocalypse for real-time data. First up, cost. Just the sheer price of constantly moving and storing data from thousands of devices is getting outrageous. Second, complexity. Oh man, trying to get all your different systems from different vendors to play nice with the cloud, it can be a total integration nightmare. Third, and this one is absolutely critical, is latency. That's the delay. You just can't afford to wait for a signal to go to a data center and back if you're, say, a self-driving car. And finally, security. Sending all that sensitive operational data over the open internet, it opens up a world of risk.
So, if the cloud isn't the answer for all this edge data, then what is? Well, this is where a completely new architecture comes into play, something called the Edge Data Fabric. You can think of it as a much smarter, more local way of handling data that's built for this decentralized world we now live in.
Okay, so what in the world does that actually mean? Basically, an edge data fabric is a smart network that lives right there at the edge where the data is actually being created. It processes information locally almost instantly. It's designed to speak the language of tons of different devices and protocols. And it slashes costs because it doesn't have to constantly phone home to the cloud. And that last part, zero cloud dependency, that is the real game changer.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the old way, that slow, often tangled path back to the cloud. You're always dependent on that connection, all your processing is centralized, and latency is a constant threat. But look at the right. The Edge Data Fabric gives you independence. You get super fast local processing, you can make real-time decisions, and it's built to handle a messy world of different technologies with ease. It's really a fundamental shift in how we think about data.
Now, this is where things get really, really powerful. You take this Edge Data Fabric and you layer AI on top of it. What do you get? Well, you get predictive analytics running right on the factory floor, figuring out when a machine is about to break before it happens. You enable a swarm of drones to make their own decisions together without needing a pilot. The intelligence itself moves to the edge, and that makes everything faster, smarter, and more resilient. And listen, this isn't just some far-off, futuristic concept. This stuff is happening right now, out in the real world. So let's take a look at the industries that are already jumping on this and putting it to work. Just look at this list. It's some of our most critical sectors. In utilities, we're talking about managing a complex power grid in real time to stop blackouts. For manufacturing, it's about giving industrial robots those split-second reflexes they need to work safely. In oil and gas, it's about instantly spotting a leak on a pipeline that's hundreds of miles from anywhere. And for telecoms, it's about optimizing the huge networks we all depend on every single day. These are all high-stakes games where speed and reliability are everything.
And you know what's serious when you see who's behind it? Yeah, you've got pioneering companies like AnyLog and Edge 3 building the core technology. But you've also got massive organizations like the Linux Foundation creating open standards. When you see that happen, you know this isn't just a niche trend. This is a foundational shift in how our entire tech world is being rebuilt.
So, when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? It's that after this long journey to the cloud, the future of our most important data is, it's becoming local again. The processing power is moving back closer to the source, right where the action is happening. Which kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. As our world, our devices, our cities, our industries get smarter and more autonomous, doesn't it just make sense for the data and the intelligence that powers it all to stay a little closer to home? The rise of the edge data fabric seems to suggest the answer is a pretty resounding yes. Thanks for tuning in.